Hey, all my Sagittarius friends. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Terry Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer, and I'm here today with your May 2024 monthly horoscope. These horoscopes are based on whole sign Western astrology. So when I'm talking about Sagittarius, I'm talking about Sagittarius rising. This is also applicable to Sagittarius moon, Sagittarius sun, as well as if you have 3 or more personal planets in the sign of Sagittarius, this video would be applicable for you as well. Also, when I refer to a day and a time, it's based on the Pacific time zone, so please adjust for your location. Let's jump in because May very much feels like a continuation of April. We see that Jupiter, your ruling planet, is still in a tight conversation with Uranus, and this is bringing forth some really innovative ideas, potentially bringing in a sense of new ideas about business, about how you market yourself, how you brand yourself. Taurus is your 6th house of work, and we're going to see right now. We see Jupiter and Uranus are in this conversation, but on the 2nd, we're going to see Pluto, which is currently in your 3rd house, start a retrograde and move back into Capricorn until October of this year. It's going to enter around September 2nd into Capricorn. And when this happens, this Pluto energy is making a really favorable aspect to Neptune. And this is a long-term, meaning literally like over a decade, these two planets are going to be in a sextile. I'm going to address Mars and Venus in a minute, but the reason I bring this up is because your 3rd house being Aquarius is very much about fresh ideas, about being inspiring others into fresh ideas, new ways of being. It's very it emphasizes sort of this unconventional way of being that is attractive to others. And usually I think that happens more as you age. I think childhood can be a little bit challenging because we are trained to conform in childhood, and the 3rd house rules our childhood education and learning. So as Pluto is moving retrograde in these first degrees of Aquarius in your 3rd house, and then moves back into your 2nd house, Capricorn, there's going to be some sort of deep dive into how you are creating material resources for yourself, how you are building something sustainable and something that feels representative of your talents and your skills. It's very much, Sagittarius is a very broad and expansive 1st house. So when you see your 2nd house focused in on the earth, on building, Capricorn is a natural leader. It has ambition and drive. And here in the 2nd house, which is naturally Taurus, it has a real ability to be sustainable, to meaning I'm dedicated. I am willing to go the distance to get the job done. So Pluto moving into the last degree of your 2nd house, 29th degree, is going to bring up a real, how do I think? How do I feel about my skills, my confidence, my sense of uniqueness? And it could inadvertently, we see it making a square here to Venus. This will last a few days. Bring up your any issues you've previously had with money, with confidence, with honing your skills, practicing your skills. These things will be brought up so that they can be transformed. And right now, on the 1st, we see that Mars, in its rulership, has been having a conversation with Neptune. This is very powerful because this is the Knights of the Round Table, willing to really start to implement the spiritual concepts that allow you to build something sustainable without being confined by the earthly structures, which is what I think this deep dive of Pluto into this last degree of Capricorn will reveal. And at the same time, as it reveals that, it's going to bring forth new innovative ways of addressing things. And this could very well be new technologies that end up showing up over the course of the next few years. So while I'm talking about the month of May, the Uranus-Jupiter conjunction is very much setting the tone for what's going to be moving forward. Epiphanies, revelations. This Uranus naturally rules your third house. And of course, Jupiter naturally rules your first house. So I think this is really pretty, I think it's very beneficial, actually. It could bring things up that I almost feel like on some level it could bring unexpected opportunities to look into your history. Both Capricorn rule history, Taurus rules history, and it may be a redefining of that history. Basically looking at it and saying, there's nothing I can do about what happened then, but I do have the ability to look to the future and to plan for the future and to focus on that. So I think this is going to be a very powerful retrograde because, again, Pluto is going to go back to that 29th degree. And this is a master degree, a degree where you understand the ebb and the flow of the human structure. And rather than fighting against it, there's a learning to detach from the emotional dynamic of it and kind of pull up to a more spiritual way of looking at how this potential divine disruption is actually contributing to your benefit versus keeping you locked into something unpleasant. And I do think that as we spend the next decade with Pluto, will eventually move back in, in October, it will go forward again, re-entering Aquarius later in the year. I think it re-enters at the end of October. And then we're going to see Neptune enter Aries. And then we got two very individualistic, unique signs, really digging deep into where we have been imprinted and allowing us to move and use the divine laws of this universe to manifest and to create. And that's going to be really what I think is the main theme of the Aquarian age. So here we go on to the second. I kind of belabored that a little bit. So now we see that Pluto has gone retrograde. I want to also mention that with Mars in your fifth house of self-expression, it's kind of the fifth house is about pleasure, about enjoyment, about the things that where laughter sits, where applause sits, where you feel proud of what you've created and the audience supports it. So here with Mars in your fifth house, making a complementary dynamic aspect to Pluto, and they co-rule Scorpio, which is your 12th house. This is an opportunity to really integrate your ancestral soul's energy, talents, dynamics into this future chapters of your life. There's a surrender and an intention going on at the same time for Sagittarius. I think this is really powerful because I think your everyday world and your work dynamic could change very much over the next period of time. I literally think over the next few years. I mean, everything's being planted now. The revelations are being revealed and the new intentions are being set. That's the way it comes across to me. So let's real quickly go to the third, where we'll see that Neptune here is at this anaretic degree. And I want to say that this is really powerful because moving forward, we're going to see later in the month, Venus and Jupiter come together at that anaretic degree in Taurus, making a sextile to Neptune. And then Neptune is again making a sextile to Pluto. So there's really a powerful energy of forward thinking, using the past to build upon versus pulling me under, and being able to see things from a higher perspective. Meaning I'm raising my sight above the mundane to how is this actually working for me instead of trying to tank me. Let's go to the new moon in Taurus on the 7th. That is going to be at 8:21 p.m. Pacific time. And this is a very powerful new moon, because this aspect between Jupiter and Pluto, this trine, very favorable for expanding my beliefs, expanding even money, because both Pluto rules money, other people's money. Jupiter rules the expansion of money, and Jupiter rules branding, marketing, publishing, writing, influencing. So, and Uranus rules the internet. So you could find that you have been starting a passion project. This is Aries is your 5th house. Taurus is your 6th house. And as Pluto retrogrades into your 2nd house of money, this all feels like it's about moving your career, your professional life forward in a way that supports how you want to live your life. And this is a beautiful trine that then this sextile makes like this focal point to Neptune. We see that Jupiter's in the sextile to Neptune, Neptune's in sextile to Pluto, Pluto's in trine. And there's probably some technical name that I should look up for whatever that aspect is, but I haven't done it. I've been too busy, so forgive me. But I know that this is a potent energy for using the divine laws of the universe. It's like, what are you believing about yourself before you take action? And then as you identify that, because during this new moon, we see Mercury and Chiron in an exact conjunction at the Sagittarian degree in your 5th house. This is the 3rd meeting of these of this Chiron, this point that indicates and refers to a wound that when it's transformed is truly a gift that we appreciate, that brings wisdom, that brings bounty beyond just the material. So while I'm planting the seeds at this 18th degree, which is the Virgo degree, so now I'm really doubling down on this idea of your everyday work life, how you run your everyday. It could even refer to your health, but I'm not really feeling that it's health. It feels like an excitement and a possibility moving forward that you've been feeling since maybe even late March. It could be before that. So something's been building for you. Something's been offering you an opportunity to express yourself. And in doing so, bringing a fresh, unique concept out into the world that could very well be celebrated by the masses. Because when you have Aquarius as your 3rd house, it makes it it's almost like the world is your neighborhood. Space is your neighborhood. So here in the darkness of the new moon, you'll be planting seeds, your intentions. And here we see Venus is now well into her rulership of Taurus, and she's at this Capricorn degree, the 10th degree. So her thoughts are very much about building sustainable, I want to use here what I think is happening. It's not even that her ideas is sustainable. It's that she is now willing to do and be dedicated and to walk through whatever trepidation she may have about whether she's capable or not in order to create. I really think that this is powerful for you, specifically because of the way that your chart is laid out. It feels like your personal passions, Sagittarius, have an opportunity to bring you bounty that you have not recognized, or maybe you just weren't ready to birth that. So this new moon is going to be super good for that. Now we have a little bit of a thing here with Saturn making this quincunx to the South Node. And this might be a moment where, Libra rules partnerships. It rules contractual partnerships that require our cooperation, require our I guess the way I want to put it is, this is your 11th house. And Libra is your 11th house. So there's a certain amount of you having to kind of not worry about the masses right now, not really worry about how people are going to respond. Because there's a feeling of going back to that 5th house. Aries is like being individualistic and trusting that whatever your individual perceptions, viewpoints, thoughts are that there is an audience for that. And as you birth that, then because this quincunx to Saturn rules your history, rules, and it's going to kind of continue. This is going to be a dance that the South Node and Saturn are going to do for a little while, because Saturn is going to move a little bit further this way. The South Node is moving this way as well. So it's a little bit of your history could potentially be brought up, or your fears could be brought up, or you could even feel a little sense of dryness at times, but that could be when you're tired, and maybe it's about not pushing. Again, you've got this sixth house that rules health as well as work and employment and employers. And here you may employ yourself is what I'm looking at, or what I'm thinking. All right, let's go on to the 15th. I'm going to move this back to 12 p.m. And the 15th, we'll see Mercury move into Taurus. And again, Taurus is your sixth house. Mercury is now making a square to Pluto. And this here to me is really kind of was bringing up a lot of me thinking about my, how I have been supported in my life path up until now about my expression. If I'm different, or if I have a different perception, I'm not, I'm more of a Baba black sheep than I am a white sheep, then, because I hope that's came across all right. But in any case, because this square that's happening to Pluto is unearthing the way you're thinking and what you're focusing on. And if you're inadvertently going back and forth, I mean, every human does it. There's no way to get around it. And what I want to say is that we go back to this beautiful sextile it's growing in its strength. Venus is now up to here, making having a conversation with Uranus. These are what we would consider all conjunct right now. Venus, Uranus, the Sun, and Jupiter. This is yummy energy for fresh ideas, a fresh way of expanding my skills and my talents out into my work environment and how I want to be, and that this will naturally makes me feel as if you feel better and you're more inspired physically. It's making a beautiful trine now, and this beautiful sextile to Neptune. And we know that these two are having a very favorable sextile conversation. So there's a real, I believe that this beginning of 2024 has allowed those of us that have been, inviting in an awareness that we are co-creators. I hate to use words ascension or, learning lessons. I just don't think that's necessarily true. What I think is that we are souls that have an inner knowing. And when we're in the human structure, we ignore that inner knowing because it doesn't conform necessarily. And your thought process is not one that conforms. It's expansive and futuristic. So here we're seeing this being supported. And while there's this little tiny half square to Mars here, I just think that supports this 11 is the master number of thought. The 29 reduces down to 11, which is a master number of thought. And pretty soon Venus and Jupiter are going to be conjunct at 29 degrees and making an exact sextile to Neptune. So this is really about the way that you structure your manifestations and co-creations feels as if it's shifting to the be, do, have, connecting with my emotional body, connecting with my divine source, setting my intention, and then allowing for inspired action versus just getting out there and pounding the pavement. And that Capricorn second house is giving you the discipline to trust the inner knowing now, to trust that future part of yourself that's saying, yes, everything's lining up. Everything's lining up. Even if sometimes it doesn't feel like it. All right, let's go to the 20th, where we will see the sun enter Gemini. And here, I think this is interesting here again, because we just now, we've seen Venus still in a conversation with Uranus. Now, this would be really like kind of a little bit it could have been where Uranus is like, come on, Venus, you know how powerful, you know how great you are, you know that you have all these skills and talents. It's time to step out. And she's ready. She's really ready. And as she meets up with Jupiter, this is 2 degrees now. And then in a day or so, they'll be exact. This is money expanded. Money in a money house, making an aspect to a money planet, Pluto, big money planet. Now, yes, we see that there is a square and a half to the south node. So this could be a moment where, you know, you're I want to offer it this way because that south node in Libra is always going to kind of ask you on some level, everybody, to be egoless to the partnerships and to be more willing to birth an individual part of yourself that actually contributes to a partnership that you may not have seen previously in your life experience. Because now, as Mars, the ruler of your 5th house, is in this exact, very tight conjunction and has been with the North Node, wanting to individualize your own creativity is literally going to be, you'll be chomping at the bit. It's like, I want to go, I want to go, I want to go. And then we have Chiron. Mars is about to be in a very much tighter conversation. And at this point, I believe, is willing to say, you know what, I'm going to use the wisdom I've extracted. I've learned a lot. Mars was going through Gemini, which is your 7th house, which is naturally ruled by Libra. And this is all connecting back to the South Node. There was this conversation about how Mars was showing up. You know, how am I communicating? Am I being too harsh? Am I being too impatient? Am I being inspiring? So here, I feel like Mars is ready, willing, and able to extract the wisdom that Chiron offers, that every opportunity has an obstacle, every exciting thing has a fear attached to it. There's the universe, and this planet for sure is one of contrast and duplicity. And it's our focus and where we shift our thinking that helps us to align to the co-creator within, that then in some ways can insulate us from the more challenging dynamics, or at least the way we perceive them. They don't bother us as much. And again, now the sun is in a very, all these planets are in a trine to Pluto, who is reevaluating how he wants the future to be and is willing to go into the old structures when it goes back into Capricorn of your 2nd house and disrupt those structures if they're not serving the bigger picture for the future. So this is so very, very powerful. Now let's go on to the 23rd, where we're going to have a full moon in Sagittarius. Which is your sign. So there's an illumination coming. This is going to happen at 6:53 a.m. And I say illumination more than I say a culmination, because again, I'm loving the trine here to Pluto. I really think this is working for me rather than pulling me under. We see that here on this full moon, I didn't realize it was on the full moon that these 2 planets were going to be exact. This is huge for money expansion. You know, Pluto rules wealth, Venus rules money and possessions. And here in this beautiful trine over here to Pluto, and the sextile over here exact to Neptune. So your talents, your skills, you know, Neptune rules spirituality. It rules the relationship we have through meditation, through our ability to quiet ourselves and our perceptions of the world around us in order to connect to a bigger part of us. And here, this very much feels as if it starts to become a regular practice. I can't help but, you know, to focus a little bit on the long-term dynamic of the sextile between Pluto and Neptune, as Pluto leaves, where this is going to be a huge energy in about a year, I think it is, when it moves into Aries. And Pluto has settled into Aquarius. This is so big. I mean, we're going to feel this on a world stage in many ways, but here we're going to focus on you as the individual. And this is so you could expand your ability to make money in ways that you hadn't really imagined. So during this full moon, I'm going to click on the moon right now here at 2 degrees of Sagittarius. And I want to offer this too, because in the sign of Sagittarius, there are 2 major points that are very favorable. One is the within the Shapley cluster. One is the great attractor, that's at 14 degrees of Sagittarius. And the second is the galactic center, which is at 27 degrees of Sagittarius. The great attractor is just what it says it is. That which you focus on is brought to you. So this is the illumination. What am I focusing in on? I'm focusing in that I want to expand my skills, my money, my sense of enjoyment and pleasure in my work environment, no less. And it's also the galactic center is a point where you can actually download information and connect with the divine and receive inspired solutions. So within your chart, Sagittarius, depending upon the planets in your first house, your rising sign, there are orbs as well. I'm not going to get into the Shapley cluster too much here right now, but I'll do more on that later. But you can look up the orbs, and the tighter the orb, the more influential. So this full moon could really illuminate your ability versus closing something down. And I want to emphasize the moon is in a great aspect to Neptune, who's in a great aspect to Pluto, and Pluto's in a great aspect to the moon. Now, the moon is in a challenging dynamic to Mars, but the moon, to me, this is only going to illuminate your willingness to assert yourself. Am I willing to do that? That's what that means to me. Now, if we click on the sun, we see the sun is making a half square to Mars. Again, emphasizing, do I see myself or do I not see myself? And then, but I don't really think that's as strong as I do thinking that Jupiter and Venus here dominate during this full moon. The capabilities, the ability, the opportunity, it is sitting before you. And hopefully you jump out and you get to go out and have a meditation, take a walk outside, allow nature to inspire you during this full moon, and you take action on it, because I think it's super exciting. We also see that later in the day, I'm going to go like to 6 p.m. Venus will go into Gemini. There she is. She's still in a very strong conversation here with Jupiter. Jupiter in a few days will join these 2 planets, the sun and Venus. But here, having this be your 11th house of networks and of, what am I saying? It's not your 11th house. Gemini is your 7th house. I got mixed up with my, okay. This Gemini being your 7th house. We just got done talking about how there's this potential for expansion in your business. Here's where we could see collaborations of some kind, bringing people together, maybe even an expansion of, your everyday activities, your communications within smaller groups, I want to say, at least I say smaller groups because this feels neighborhoody community, or it could be that you're building a community. You could be building something on the internet where it feels intimate, and yet people are all over the world. It doesn't have to necessarily be a large number, and it could very well grow. So this is going to be a fun energy moving forward. Venus in Gemini, to me, feels very flirtatious. She feels very curious and very wanting to get around, out and about, and visit with people. And we also see that she's still in this wonderful trine. This is the dominant energy right here. The focus is on Neptune and implementing my spiritual tools, the divine gifts I've been given, through signs and symbols and omens and meditations, and allowing that to be the platform with which I take my action off of. All right, let's go to the 25th. And here we see that in the evening, 6 p.m., Jupiter has just begun its year-long stint in your 7th house. Now, this could very well, if you are single, Gemini, this could bring a partner, literally a marriage partner, or it could see a partnership become committed through a contract of some kind. I think when Jupiter and Venus are traveling together, there's two things. Number one is super fun and yummy, but it can also get a little bit, you could gain a little bit of weight at this time, only because, you know, with these two, the Venus represents pleasure in many ways and things that bring luxury, and Jupiter expands that. So you may find that you're really could have a lot of social engagements as well. And, you know, again, I can't help but emphasize this beautiful little triangle here. We see now that Mars has come into a little bit, you know, this is a little bit of a challenging energy, Mars having such a tight conversation with Chiron. And yet at the same time, I believe Mars is transforming. So yes, while Mars can get hot and get angry and be resentful, I think Mars is tired of that. Mars says, I'm ready to move on and start to, you know, enjoy myself a little bit more. And I think this is a surrendering energy very much. And I think that comes from the Neptune sextile to Jupiter and to Venus. So this is really powerful. Let's just go to the 29th. And here we see it's a few days and Jupiter's still at the 0 degree. So this is going to be a year-long stint. I'll be doing a separate video on all of that to share with you all. And what else? Let's go to the 31st. Now here we see Venus and the Sun together. I think this could be a day when you really shine in the neighborhood, when you are, you know, you could start to really feel a collaboration afoot. You could start to feel the power of what you've been creating. This ends with no red lines. We have this little half square, which to me doesn't have that much power in relation to all the other warm, fuzzy things coming up. So overall, Sagittarius, I think that this March, April, and May have really been setting the groundwork or the platform for things moving forward. And for you personally, this really feels like it has to do with your self-expression, creating a sense of your own. You could do a side hustle. Let's say you have a job and you create a side hustle, and that side hustle starts to expand in ways that becomes calling you forth as an entrepreneur. That's very much what we're going to see Pluto's influence in Aquarius represent. All right, everybody, that's it for me for May 2024. I don't know if you can hear the gardening blower out there in the background. I apologize for that. But I'll be back in June. I hope you will like, subscribe, share, and I will see you soon. Take care, Sagittarius.